On this episode, we chat with a writer trapped inside an attorney's body. My guest is Brooke, and while she's an expert attorney, it's clear she was born to write. With her type A personality, she powered through law school and became an attorney in record time. But after conquering that mountain, life threw her a new challenge, her own divorce. And that experience led her to self-care through writing. One book down, and she's already working on her second. We also talk about some of the wild things she's witnessed in the legal world, including attorneys with green hair and Zoom calls from the toilet. Let's jump in. Brooke,
Hi.
what's happening?
Oh, nothing. Just got an emergency motion filed on one of my cases, so I was reading through that quick.
So what does that mean?
So one of my clients, the mom thinks that she needs to have emergency custody, so they file that, and we have no time to really respond before a judge makes a decision. So,
Oh, so you're saying that the other party in the case filed an emergency against your client.
mhm.
Dang. How often does something like that happen?
Um, it's slowed down a little bit now, but at one point it was like once a month.
So why do you think there was like an increase and now like a deflux of that?
I think COVID had a lot to do with it, and just like the mental health of people being stuck at home and
Have you seen like a lot of mental health stuff with like your clients or
Mhm.
like other people's clients and like an
Yeah,
increase in that in that time?
yeah,
Like
definitely. I
real talk,
think,
huh?
yeah, there was an uptick in domestics too during COVID and then right after COVID when people started going back to work.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
So okay, how many years do you have to go to school to be a lawyer?
So
How
you're
many
supposed to do 7.
how many years did you do?
I did 5.
Because you're really smart.
Well, thank you. But I mean, I just did it fast.
Like you just got in there and did it, huh?
Yeah, so I decided what was it, my 2016 I started undergrad, and so that first winter break I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a lawyer. I can do it. I'm gonna go for it. And then I just took as many credits as I could all year round and worked full time and got done with undergrad in 2.5 years. Had about 6 months off before law school started, and then I graduated that a semester early. So I did that in 2.5 years too.
So what initially inspired you in that moment where you're like, I could be a lawyer. I'm going to be a lawyer. What made you want to be a lawyer?
So my favorite show growing up was Law and Order.
Oh, no way.
And so
Is
I
that the
always,
one? That's the one where it goes like dun dun like that, right?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yep, that's also my ringtone and text tone on my phone.
Of course. Of course.
But so I loved Law and Order when I was growing up, specifically Special Victims Unit, and I would just watch that every day, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool. I love the law." And I always knew I wanted to do something after undergrad, but I didn't know exactly what. I thought I was gonna do psychology for a while, and then I started taking those classes, and it was interesting to me, but a lot of the professors at the school I went to were not great, and so that kind of turned me off from that route. And then I don't know, I don't think there was anything. Well, I guess so. My family went through a court case around that same time. My sister and
Like,
I were abused.
oh, so like your parents? Okay.
No, well, not by my parents. So we were abused by our daycare lady's husband when we were younger.
Oh, wow.
And so that trial just so happened to be, well, the trial didn't happen until I was in law school, but the investigation started when I was in undergrad. And so as that progressed, I kept thinking, well, something needs to be done. It would be really cool if I could go and help people that have been through similar things. And so I wanted to be a prosecutor and learned in law school that that was just
Not your
not the
speed?
route that I wanted to go.
Sure, sure.
But so yeah, once I decided that, I was like, okay, I'm changing my major to criminal justice. I took as many courses as I could that they'd let me and got it done. Applied to one law school, got in, got a scholarship, and here we are. Almost, well, 5.5 years later now.
So, do you think that, I mean, do you think that any part of what happened to you as a child and going through that case, I mean, it had to contribute to you wanting to be a lawyer on some level, right?
I think so. And so I had, um, as my defense mechanism, I blocked out everything, not just the abuse. I blocked out age 5 to 8 completely.
Wow.
And so my sister had started having mental health struggles and suicidal ideation and when she was coming up in high school. She's about 3 years younger than me. And so it actually came out when she was in therapy after one of her attempts. And it was like once I heard that, I started having flashbacks.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I don't know. It just, I still, after doing therapy and stuff, I still have limited memories. I can't quite break past that in my brain to fully remember everything. But I think subconsciously it had probably everything to do with it.
Well, also, you said you had this, interest in like psychology and stuff.
Mhm.
So I wonder, like in your subconscious, all these things have happened. You wanted to know why. You're like, well, I'm going to be a
Mhm.
psychologist, but you didn't. So you're telling me that you had basically like blacked out 5 to 8, and then your sister starts saying things, and then all of a sudden you just start having like like memories that you've never had before.
Yep.
What was that? What was that like?
So at first, I mean, it was definitely scary because I was, what, 20, 19, 20 when I started having the flashbacks. And I think part of me was still wanting to keep myself safe in a way and say, that didn't happen. I'm just having these flashbacks because my sister is remembering things. I don't think it really happened to me. And so a lot of the time was spent convincing myself. I don't want to say that I was crazy, but essentially that I was crazy and I was just coming up with these things and they didn't really happen. And then I started doing, I always say it wrong, EMDR or EDMR, where they kind of,
EMDR.
EMDR, yeah.
Yeah,
I started doing that for a few months with a therapist, and then that really confirmed that it happened. We went in depth on a few of the flashbacks. And so at that point, then my flashbacks started getting more vivid, and I started remembering non-abuse related things from those years, which has been nice.
sure.
But yeah, and then I ended up getting pregnant, so I stopped doing that work because I didn't want it. It was very stressful on my body.
Oh yeah.
But
Talk, talk a little bit about your experience doing EMDR.
yeah, so it was in person, which I think it was before COVID. Yeah, it was before COVID. So it was in person, um, just the therapist reminding you that you're safe. You close your eyes and kind of put yourself back into that situation. And then it was it was like I was there as a 5-year-old in that situation again, feeling all of the feelings, seeing all of the things. And then after the session, I had to go through and write down everything, all of the details that I remembered. And then each session after that, I would start by reading it back to myself once in my head, once out loud, and then we would dive back in and do it again and see if I remembered any other details.
It's a wild experience, huh?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's crazy.
And you said, and you spoke to it very truly. It's intense. It's a
Mhm.
very intensive thing, especially, the real secret of is just allowing yourself to go there, allowing yourself to be with those thoughts and feelings, and then to allowing yourself to say them out loud. And a lot of people don't want to go to that. Kudos to you, but a lot of people don't want to go to that depth to
Yeah.
solve that problem. And sometimes it's as simple as that.
hmm
Okay, so
Well, yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and then the next part of it was we were supposed to work on accepting it and dealing with it so that I could move past it. But I think what I've realized over the last few years is just validating that it happened has been enough for me. Like, I don't have any interest in going back and dealing with it anymore. I think just that back and forth of did it happen, convincing myself it didn't, just getting the answer on that was enough for me to be like, yep, it happened. It's a part of my story now, and
I'm not crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and there is I'm not saying that you need validation for acceptance, but it sure is helpful.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It helps out a lot,
hmm
you know?
Yeah.
So,
I'm
okay.
big on validation.
Yeah, okay, so do you probably do that with your clients too, right? Like it's probably a big part
Mhm.
of what you do with your clients, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like half the time I'm a therapist, half the time I'm an attorney. A lot of the times they just need to talk and get their frustrations out and vent and
Well, but I would think as an attorney, you want to know your clients,
Mhm.
right? And you get to know them when they talk to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's valuable for you too, but there is a level of probably therapist, like I used to be a bartender, like people just tell you their
hmm
problems kind of thing.
Yep.
Haircut, getting your hair done kind of stuff,
Oh yeah.
nails, if that kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
my hairstylist hurt a lot the last time she did my hair.
How long have you had your hairstylist? How long have you had the same hairstylist?
It was the first time I hadn't done my hair in a year and a half, and it was
Man,
the first time and I just unloaded on her.
does she do your hair right now?
Um, so I've just done it the one time. It was like 2 months ago, and now she's on
Oh,
maternity leave.
oh,
So
okay.
she will though when she comes back.
Yeah, give her a big tip. You know what I mean?
I did, yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so you are a litigation lawyer.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So that means that I'm in court fairly often. I think I had 4 or 5 court hearings this week alone. Um, Anything from motion hearings, trial, modifications, everything, child support. So I would say, what are we at now? 94% of cases usually settle outside of court.
Hmm.
Um, we did see an uptick in that after COVID because of Zoom and being able to do hearings online. It kind of takes away that pressure of being at the courthouse and being in person. But I would say only like 6% of cases right now go to trial. I just so happen to have had 3 in the last month and a half. So it's been crazy.
So you're saying once we went to Zoom to do court cases,
hmm
that percentage it went up.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that you say that. Like, what, okay, describe like the feeling in a courtroom when you're in a trial like that versus just doing it on Zoom.
So it's, I mean, I'm used to it now, but it's scary for clients to walk into the courthouse. They're usually like 150 years old, they're huge, and they've got the columns out front. And you walk up the big steps, and then you have to walk up like 3 levels of steps inside the courthouse that haven't been worked on in who knows how long, and they're creaky, and It's just a really ominous feeling. And then you walk into the courtroom and sit down, and the judge is up on her pedestal behind her desk, and it's it's a lot more real when you're there in person in front of the judge. She's not just yelling at you from the screen, telling you need to figure it out.
Also, you got to go through security, right?
Yeah, like it's
Like,
like airport security.
yeah, it's like serious business.
Hmm.
And to your point, if someone yells at me online or on the phone, like, I
Hmm.
mean, like, I'm like, whatever. If there's someone in a chair on a pedestal over the top of me yelling at me, I'm feeling that
Yeah,
a lot, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So did they do away with Zoom or can you still do Zoom?
So we have trials are in person. Um, Motion hearings are half and half, I would say. It kind of depends on the judge. And then everything else is still pretty much Zoom. Unless you have a child protection case, then all of those hearings have to be in person.
Boom. And I'm assuming that's for the level of seriousness, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I don't know if this is a good question or not. Tell me, in your opinion, and this is your fashion opinion, no one else's,
Okay.
what's the wildest thing you've ever seen somebody wear into a courtroom that just was not appropriate for a
Oh,
courtroom?
I was just talking about this with someone actually. So it wasn't what she was wearing per se. So this girl had green hair.
Okay.
So that threw me off. Um,
So a lot of people that come in don't dye their hair, or they
not,
try to, or they try to cover
yeah.
it up in a way, right?
Yeah. So I would say the rules used to be really strict, right? When I was graduating law school, like we were told we have to wear pantyhose. If we're wearing a skirt, we have to wear only these colors, suit jackets. And I don't know what changed in the last 5 years, but people show up to court and I'm like, what are you wearing? I think the worst one was probably a girl who showed up in a hot pink suit jacket and pants.
Now you're talking about these are like lawyers.
Hmm.
Dang. Oh, wait, so back up. So you're saying a lawyer showed up with green hair?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Like I thought you
Yeah.
just meant like a client, you know what I mean? Or like a
Oh,
wow.
yeah. And I mean, I'm all for expressing yourself and
Me
doing
too.
what you want to do,
Me
but
too.
I also feel like I don't think that looks as professional as we're trying to keep the practice of law looking.
I mean, okay, am I wrong? Court is a serious place.
Hmm.
I mean, like this, there's serious things going on in here.
Yes,
You know what I
definitely.
mean? And so, like, you want to show up, like, I'm heavily tattooed, right? If I was
Hmm.
a lawyer and I had tattoos on my hands, I would think that would be, you could totally do it. I'm not saying that you can't, but I
Hmm.
would just think that'd be inappropriate for me being a lawyer. I'd also feel like that if I was a police officer or, some public figure, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I
Right.
don't have tattoos on my hands, like, for those reasons. And it's
Yeah.
just wild to me that the lawyers like are showing up like crazy. I was totally thinking like just defendants and stuff,
Oh
people wearing
no.
pajamas,
Oh,
but
that happens a lot.
pinks, the defendants wear pajamas.
Yeah. Clients, everything. They just
Okay,
show
so
up in whatever.
what's the craziest thing you've ever seen like a client or like a defendant show up in?
Oh man. Well, so now with Zoom, they do first appearances for criminal cases via Zoom. So you'll have people like laying naked in bed, you'll have people on
No,
the
no, no,
toilet.
no,
Oh yeah.
n- no.
Hmm.
That's crazy. On the
Yeah.
toilet.
Yeah. People smoking, walking to get their mail. Um, it wasn't my client, but we watched a lady hit her child on a hearing.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane.
You, you- ah.
Hmm.
Look, like this is just the way I was raised. If I'm gonna do something like a court hearing online, I'm gonna make sure like I'm ready 30 minutes before,
Yep.
right? I'm going to make sure there's nobody doing anything in the background. I'll make sure that I'm dressed. I'm online, but I'm going to dress appropriately. And I'm going to be sitting down like ready. This is like serious. Like
Mm-hmm.
the thought of like being on the toilet blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, I had an attorney that appeared for a Zoom hearing from the toilet before too.
No, 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 no. An attorney
Hmm.
was on the toilet for the Zoom meeting. That's
Hmm.
wild. They have green hair? I'm just kidding.
No, that one did not. Yeah,
Oh.
it's not what it used to be, that's for sure. And I mean, I'm not showing up in like pressed suit jackets every day, but at least I'm dressed for court and appropriately. And
I,
then you have, I don't know.
well, okay, like what what if like a police officer showed up with green hair? You know what I mean? Like how would how
Mm,
or I don't know, maybe that's not a fair one. I just feel like, you know, you should dress appropriately for the job that you're
mhm.
doing and working, and it's a serious job, so you should like, you should show up like you care, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that the attorney with the green hair did not do a great job for her client because the judge was not, he's an old judge who is used to what the old expectations were, and you could tell he was not okay with it. But he knew good, like he knew enough not to say something about it, but you could tell that he was just not having it.
Well, it's like I'm sure he's trying to be fair and equal,
Mm-hmm.
but in all things fair and equal, how you show up can kind of tilt the way that goes, you know what I mean? And that's just in
Mm-hmm.
human behavior, that's just how we kind of work, you know what I mean? We're
Right.
influenced in that way. And so, excuse me, you want to you want to make sure that you're doing all the things you can do to make sure that situation turns out the best,
Yeah.
you know?
I
Cuz
tell
like
my clients dress as nice as you can. Well, I mean, whether the judge can say that that's a reason or not, you never know subconsciously how it's going to impact their decision.
do you know what I in this moment I have mad respect for that I never did before? You know the guys that don't have like a button-down shirt, and so they just either go like grab one or someone gives them one and it doesn't fit. It's like way too big, and you
Hmm.
know it's not their shirt,
Nope.
right? But they took the time to find a nice button-down shirt to try to make it to court. God bless.
Mhm. I mean, it makes a difference. It really does.
Okay, so tell me about your first book. Tell me, okay, one, tell me how you come to write a book,
Okay.
and then tell me about your first book and what it's about.
Okay. So I've always loved writing. Um, Always thought that at some point in my life I would write a book, but I figured being an attorney and I had a 1-year-old at the time that I was just too busy and there wasn't time. And then I started reading Alan Eskin's books, and he's actually, well, he was a Minnesota attorney that was practicing in the same town that I was. And I read his books, and one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I sat down on a Sunday and started writing after I'd put my daughter to bed. And 2 months later, I had the first draft of my book done. And I sent it out to 7 publishers, and I heard back from 6 with offers. I still haven't heard back from the seventh one, and it's been 2 years now, so I think that that one's probably out. Um,
Six out of seven ain't bad though. I just want to
right.
say, yeah.
And I didn't even, when I wrote it, it was more of just the accomplishment of writing it. And then I had a friend read it, and she's like, this is really good. Like, you need to publish this. And so I said, all right, why not? Went through that process, picked the publisher that I wanted to use. That process was stressful, and I don't know, I probably won't do the same publisher again for my next book. But yeah, we just hit a year, what was it? August 22nd, 2023. My first book came out. It's called Unjust. It's a legal thriller about a man that was wrongly incarcerated for over 40 years. He was convicted of killing and sexually assaulting his girlfriend. And part of the book is to point out the injustices in the judicial system. So he's a black man. He was accused of raping and killing his white girlfriend. She came from a prominent family, and her father used his influence to impact the outcome of the case. And then they find out throughout the book that there's also some prosecutorial misconduct that happens too. So,
Oh,
yeah,
wait, and
it's
this is
exciting.
a fiction book, right? Is it
Yeah.
fiction?
Yep.
Okay. So how do you sit down to write and know even where to start with the story? Or how did you start writing this story out of your head?
I had no plan whatsoever. I literally just sat down and started writing and it just came to me and it was flowing and it was crazy. It kind of solidified to me that this is what I should be doing and that I was meant to be an author because it was just so effortless and I'm on a lot of like writing. It was on Twitter and then I was on Instagram and I'm reading all of these hardships that other authors are having and I'm like, "Oh, I kind of feel bad. You've been an author for this many years and you're having these struggles and I didn't have to deal with any of those." So in a
So
way I felt bad, but
so it's uncommon for someone to send their book out to 7 publishers and get 6 offers. Usually maybe someone gets one or none, maybe or something.
that's what it seems like. I had no idea before I did it. I just researched the probably 50 different publishers, picked the ones that I thought I'd like working with, and sent them out to those few. And I was really excited when I heard back from the first one, and then when I heard back from all of them, um, it was like, oh, maybe it's not, maybe it is an easier process than I thought. And then when I started getting more involved in social media with other authors, I was realizing that it's not common. There's been people that have sent their books out 50 or 60 times and never gotten an offer back.
Wow. And you said, did you write when you were younger?
Um, Not like full stories. Um, Not that I can remember at least. I have always liked writing, but I was always so busy with school and sports and everything else that there wasn't time to actually sit down and write like a full book or write
Okay, so
anything substantial.
like in school,
Hmm.
and you had to like write a paper. Was writing papers easy for you?
Yeah.
Like you could just turn them out?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would help other students write their papers and edit papers. I It's really bad, but when people text me or send me emails, when I'm reading through it, I'm like proofreading it in my head and making corrections and being like, "Oh, you should have had a comma there," or it's so bad.
But you know what's so funny is like I'm gonna give you some relief. You are not the I know people like this. You are not the only one. You are
Okay,
not the
good.
only one. You know what I mean? But also it's a good and bad problem to have, right? It's a good
Yeah.
problem to have because that means you're really good at what you do. It's a bad problem to have
Mhm.
because it's almost like a nuisance at some point. And you
Yeah.
can't really tell the other person because you don't want to be like, hey, you don't know how to use commas. You know what I mean? Like you're just stuck with it that it's kind of like with me, I've done so much physical body work with people. I can watch somebody
Mhm.
walk and tell kind of what's going on with them. And so then I'm watching
Mhm.
strangers walk and I'm like, oh, your back must hurt bad. You know what I mean? Mm.
Yeah.
So you said that the publishing process was hard. What was
Mhm.
hard about the publishing process?
So I'm surprise, surprise, I'm a very type A person, and I was ready to just go through the process, get the book done, and get it out. I had been telling people about it, like family and friends, and they were super excited and wanted to read it. And so I had a meeting with my publisher, and we went over a rough timeline. And they were like, yeah, here's the rough timeline. But since you're so on top of things and so responsive, it should be done much quicker than this. And then each step of the way, I would have to reach out and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, according to our rough timeline, this was supposed to be done already. I haven't heard an update. And so that started getting frustrating. And then towards the end, I would ask for an update and get one, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, we started that 2 weeks ago. And then a month later, I'd get another email saying, hey, we just started this, when they had told me 6 weeks ago that it had already been started. And yeah, I'm big on timeliness and sticking to timelines. And when we're missing them at every step of the way, and it's not because of anything that I've done, it was frustrating. And there's also, I thought that they would have people internally that would be doing like the editing and cover art and things like that, but it seemed more like they were facilitating the money to outside independent contractors, which
Oh,
is fine, but then they didn't have it, like they waited until the first person was done before they would even schedule the next part.
so it
And
just
so it
delays it.
was just
Yeah.
delayed and stressful for me because I was excited. I was like, I want to get this thing done. Everybody's excited to buy it. I want to hold my book in my hands. And so then it was just a letdown over and over again, and it just got really frustrating.
All right, so this is just for me. This is a question just for me.
Hmm.
Um, you put your book on Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the experience of putting a book on Amazon? Like, do you mind just going over the process like real quick and just
Yeah.
like what it was it a good or bad experience? I want to write a book, so I'm secretly
Yeah.
I'm taking notes over here.
Yeah, it's not hard. You just have to find someone that can convert the PDF into the ebook, and then you upload it onto Amazon. It's literally just like uploading it, and then they convert it to the print book. And so I do print on demand. And so if you were to go buy it right now, they would literally print it tonight and send it to you.
Wow, that's so cool.
Hmm.
Ah, the world has changed so much.
I know. Well, and it was crazy because you can get like author copies. And so I got, I think 20 the last time. And it's just crazy that they printed those all out and got them to me in like 7 days.
Yeah. I always think that, my whole garage here is covered with like music albums and stuff. And
Hmm.
you think about how hard it was to make an album back in the day to press it and all this stuff. And now it's
Right?
just like you just upload it to the internet. Like it was just like
Yeah.
boop. Like it's so crazy. All right,
Yeah.
so you're on to your second book, right?
Yep. So, well, I just finished producing, well, I didn't produce it. I just uploaded the production of the audiobook for book one yesterday, actually. So that'll be coming live in a few weeks. But within the whole publishing process of the first book, I started the second book, and I got about, I think, 28,000 words in. And then that's when the rewrite process for the first book started. So I kind of had to put that on pause and finish the first book through. And then the goal has always been to start or continue working on book two, but then right after book one launched, I had my second baby. Um, Started going through the divorce process, so now I've been doing that. Job change, housing change twice. So now life's starting to calm down a little bit, knock on wood.
Right.
So I'm going to start working on it now.
Okay, so okay, I mean, I get this impression that, like you said, you're type A, like you're probably a pretty good lawyer, and it sounds like you're a pretty good writer too. So which one do you think you're better at? You think you're a better lawyer or a better writer?
Oh, that's a hard question. I think I'm gonna say lawyer for now just because I have more practice in it and it's what I do every day. But I think if I had more time to be a writer and focus on that, that would probably take over. I think in the long run, if I could retire from being an attorney or do it part-time and focus on writing more, that would be the goal. Because I see some of these like full-time authors or stay-at-home moms who are authors full-time that are doing 3 or 4 books a year. And I think that would just be amazing. And I know that I could do it if I had the time in the day to do it.
Well, I'm going to say two quick things. One, I think probably the reason why you're such a good lawyer is because you're a good writer. I think you
Mhm.
can't have one without the other. I
Yeah.
also think probably writing is probably your purpose, and being a lawyer is what you do for a job. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's awesome that you've tapped into that. Let me ask you, like, once you tapped into writing, like, you said you kind of wrote before, blah blah whatever, but you're being a lawyer and you tap into that writing piece. Did that
Mhm.
change a lot of other aspects of your life? Did you feel a ripple effect of other aspects of your life?
Um, Honestly, not really, but I think a lot of that was because of the relationship that I was in, and I did not have any support from my hopefully soon to be ex. Um, he was not, he didn't want me to write the book, he didn't want me to publish it, he didn't want me to market it at all. And I mean, he'll tell you he was supportive, but he wasn't. And so I felt like it was almost something that, not that I should be ashamed about it, but it was something that I wasn't allowed to be excited about it. And so I didn't get to fully embrace that.
It's almost like it's like a symbol of your divorce
Mm-hmm.
in a way, you know what I mean? Of like, you know, you're caught in this marriage that you don't want to be in, you want to get out of it, and there's this book. It's like, write me. This
Mm-hmm.
is our that we're gonna, and then he's like, no, and you're like, no, right? You know what I mean? And it's almost like, and I feel that a lot. Like I think there's a lot of those symbolisms in our life and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, one more question about the book, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll go on something else. When when you're writing like characters like in the book, do
Mm-hmm.
you like can you picture the do you picture the scenarios happen in your mind, or is it like in your mind, is it like just writings and you're reading? Do you know what I mean? Is it like a movie or a little more like a audio book?
So, and that's when I read other people's books, I'm really good at picturing it and getting immersed that way. But when I write it and when I read my own writing, I can't picture it at all. It's
So
so
it's
weird to
just
me.
audio.
Yeah.
So the main character in the book is who?
Jason Mickelson.
Okay. So like how did you come up with the name Jason Mickelson?
It just
That you
came
just
to me.
you just and you didn't challenge it, you didn't think about it twice, you just go Jason Mickelson.
Yep.
Okay, and right now, do you know what Jason Mickelson looks like, or you don't know what he looks like?
No. I mean, I have a description in the book, but
Sure.
I can't
So
picture it.
so that description,
Hmm.
it wasn't a description of something you saw in your mind. It's just like when you hear the name Jason Mickelson, you describe that name and with that character. The description is like a build up to who he is, I guess, in maybe the book, huh?
Yeah. And so his character is someone that was athletic in high school, um, someone who women are attracted to, but he's a workaholic, so he's always been too busy to really have relationships until the book. And I don't even know if I knew that that was his personality when I was describing him. I don't think I did, to be honest with you. Um, and it's not, he's like the opposite of physically my type, so I don't know. I don't know where he came from, to be honest.
But I just think it's so interesting, like when you talk to people that make music, some people they write the lyrics first or they write the music first, or some
Hmm.
people can just write music and they can't write lyrics. And I've never really asked a person that wrote a book, especially a fictional book about fictional characters, like how do you get your characters and where that comes from. But it sounds like, I mean, to me, it sounds like when that happens, you're in the zone. Like you tap into this part, and it's just like this story just kind of comes through you, like, brrr, and it's just like coming
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
That's so wonderful. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird seeing other authors who have like their storyboards and they're like, oh, I'm reorganizing my storyboard and my plot and this is my outline. And I'm like, yeah, I know kind of maybe what I want to happen in the second book, but I have no idea how we're gonna get there. I have no idea where it's gonna end. We'll just see
Well,
how it goes.
well, it's kind of like, like some athletes are just naturally gifted, right?
Yeah.
And some athletes have to work really hard at it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And you just might be one of those naturally gifted, if it's your purpose, that you're a naturally gifted like writer. So, just like someone that naturally knows how to play the guitar, you don't have to do all the extra planning and stuff. It kind of comes through you in that way.
Yeah.
And like as much as some people want to be great basketball players or great athletes, you can practice all you want to, and you might be 5'5", so you're not going to be, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, you got to lean into the things that are you, and it sounds like you're doing that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
This final segment is brought to you by HeyJustBe.com. I believe that achieving balance in the mental, physical, and metaphysical aspects of your purpose through learning, serving, and creating can transform your life into one you truly enjoy living. Want to learn more? Visit www.heyjustbe.com.
So, how I wrap this thing up is I usually ask people, what do you do to just be the best version of yourself so you can be good for everybody else? So, do you find is writing very therapeutic for you, or does that feel more like not work, but like in a different mode?
It in the past it helped as a way for me to kind of get out of my head and stop worrying about my to-do list, stop worrying about the not so great things going on in my life. So I want to get back to it to get that relief again. But right now I just was kind of, I mean, the thing that I did was leaving my marriage. It was not a great situation and it was really hard because we had just had a baby, but it was not a good situation for my kids and I, and even though it was scary, I did what I could and got out of there, and now we're in the rebuilding phase. I got a new job so that we're better off financially. We just bought a house, so getting all of that stuff settled so that I can focus on being the best mom that I can be, being the best attorney, author, person that I can be. And now that things are starting to settle down, I'm going to try and focus and learn what makes me happy. And so far, I've found that that is writing, but I'm excited to see what else can make me happy too.
Sure. So, I want to go back real quick.
Mhm.
You know, you said you started writing before you started divorcing, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
Was there any level of like that it was therapeutic? I don't know your soon to be ex-husband, so I don't want to talk about him ill
Yep.
about him. But like, was
Mhm.
there a level of like he can't take this away from me, and almost the fact that like he wasn't supporting you made you want to do it more?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And look, that's maybe a little bit of our ego going like, fuck you, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Definitely.
But but it's also very valuable to understand that you did something that no one can take away from you, and that
Hmm.
doesn't cost any money, and that gives you like a fire and a passion, and maybe on some level it helped keep you up while things have been so low, and writing
Hmm.
and getting that out, don't you think?
Yeah. And I definitely used it as a way to not hang out with him too. So it was it was dual purpose for sure.
So what you're trying to say is if you decide you're going to get divorced, start writing a book.
Yes,
Immediately. Start writing a book immediately.
exactly.
Okay. What else are you a music person? Do you like music?
Um, so I wish that I could write music. I was in like competition choir and stuff, so I really enjoy singing. If I'm having a really bad day and I just can't get out of it, I go for a drive and just sing along to music for like 25 minutes and I'm immediately like better.
What's your go-to? What's your go-to in the car karaoke?
Oh boy. Well, it depends on the situation.
The mood?
Um, a lot of country.
Okay.
Um, but if I need to get hyped up before a trial, my go-to song is Cocky by Kid Rock.
Yes. I love that you have hype music before a
Yeah.
trial. That is amazing. That is amazing. I'm
Every
all in
trial.
look, I'm all in favor of hype music before you go do things. You know what I mean? Before I do this podcast, I have a
Mhm.
playlist of music that I listen to and I get hyped to do this thing. You're like, so that's so awesome that you do that. That's so cool. Uh
Yeah,
uh
I like
it
scream it at the top of my lungs.
anything else you do to take care of yourself?
Um, one of the things that I started doing during the end of the marriage was getting my nails done once a month. And it was something where I got out of the house, didn't have to be an active anything, could just sit there and do that. And it makes me feel more confident about myself. So that's the one thing that I've always, not always, but the last couple of years, I've said, this is my non-negotiable. I'm always going to make sure that I go and get that done. And it helps a lot.
Like uh speak to that a little bit more. Like so, you know, it'd be real easy to say, like, for someone like, well, I can't afford to get my nails done, blah, blah, blah. But
Hmm.
like, you made it a non-negotiable because you understand how important it is to take care of yourself so that you can be a mom, do your job, right?
So I'm not good at doing self-care, but I realized that when I would get my nails done, it was a nice hour, half hour, whatever it is, where I got out of the house. I got to do something for myself, and I've always liked the way that having my nails done made me feel. It's something small, but it just makes me feel like I look more professional and more girly. I'm not a huge like girly girl, so it's something that like brings out the feminine side a little bit. And so once I realized that it had that effect, I just decided that, you know what, I don't care what he says, I don't care what it takes. I'm doing this for me, even if it's the only thing that I can do for myself each month. I'm going to make sure that I go do that hour appointment, get out of the house. I usually would get like a Starbucks or something too, and just that was my little me time.
Well, one, you keep saying that you're not good at self-care. I think you're doing a great job. You're starting to
Thank
kill it.
you.
You're getting
Thank
you're
you.
you're you're getting in some good habits.
Hmm.
And I think two, um, you know, a lot of people that I work with will go, well, like I do have me time, but it's not really. Or like they'll be like, I don't need me time. And it's kind of like the consistency of me time, right? So there's probably times where
Yeah.
you went to go get your nails done, you're like, I don't necessarily need this,
Yeah.
but I'm going to keep doing it because I made this commitment myself to consistency. And the
Hmm.
fact that I do it this month has an impact on the next month, right? In the sense of like how I feel consistently. So, like,
Hmm.
that's awesome.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
was a
I might,
long, hard road to get there, but started to realize I need to prioritize myself a little bit.
well, you know, again, you a self-admitted type A personality.
Hmm.
Uh, y'all people like to run yourselves in the dirt, helping everybody else. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You're a lawyer. It's obvious. And so if you want to be the strongest, best person you could be, you gotta make sure you take care of yourself. That's what this whole thing is about. You know what I mean? Like people doing the things they do and how they take care of themselves so they can do it. You know what I mean? The question I get all the time is like, how do you do so much? I'm like, well, I make sure that I take care of myself in a way that I can do all those things. You know,
Hmm.
it's like that easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. If it were that easy, everyone would do it.
Well, okay, let me back up. Like, I was thinking when you were talking about getting your nails done, right?
Hmm.
My first thing, always people always go straight to like money, right? And they'll go, "Well, I don't have the money." Okay,
Hmm.
you don't have the money, right? You could, I gotta assume you can afford just to go to the store and buy nail polish,
Hmm.
right? So go to the store, buy nail polish, right? Go to a park somewhere. It's nice
Hmm.
when it's nice outside and sit and paint your nails by yourself. No cell phone, no headphones. Just sit out there and paint your nails.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be self-care doesn't have to be expensive. And in
Right.
fact, just sitting with yourself is the almost I mean, some of the best self-care you could do and it costs nothing
Hmm.
you know but
Yeah.
essentially that's kind of what you're doing when you get your nails done. You're just being with yourself because I'm sure while you're getting your nails done you're thinking about cases that you have and your kids got to go here and
Hmm.
what is my future ex-husband doing now and what does my mom say about this and all those things go through your mind, but that's where you're kind of it's almost like a meditation. You're flushing them out and letting it go once a month, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Therapy, nail therapy.
Yes.
Right? Is there such thing as nail? Is that a
I
thing? Nail
think
therapy?
so. I've heard of
Yes.
that before.
Okay. What do you think? So there's retail therapy,
Hmm.
and we've established there's nail therapy,
Yep.
I guess, right? I would say that I do shoe therapy. I'm a sneakerhead, so I'm doing shoe therapy. What do you think the weirdest type of therapy would be?
The weirdest. I don't know why my head immediately goes to like that show My Strange Addiction.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I guess like to a point, you are absolutely right. Like I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right. It's like I was thinking there was a girl that she used to eat the things off the nail file. Like she'd eat the
Hmm.
whatever that was. It was
Yep.
like she couldn't stop. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, man, like I guess
Yeah.
that's her therapy.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to look at it. Yeah, my mind went to the eating the dryer sheets and how weird that would feel in your mouth.
I I feel like I do some pretty weird things, you know what I mean? But like I don't understand doing weird things that I mean,
Harm
you
you.
got to know it's harmful, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're doing this, if we're on a show about it, it's probably not good for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you got to know it's not good, but you can't help yourself from doing it. I also
Yep.
think about this, like, how dogs can't have chocolate?
Yeah.
Like, I'd be dead in like the first 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as soon as I'm bored, I'd be like, where's the chocolate? Boom, done, done.
Yep.
You know? I couldn't make it. Well, Brooke, did you have a good time?
Yes, I did. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for doing this. Hey, and I appreciate all your patience in getting this scheduled. I know there was things going on both ends, and so, but I really appreciate you, having the patience for me, getting this done, and meet with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was great.